My wife, who is 33 years old, and I, who am 36 years old, have been married for 9 years, and we have 3 young children who are 7, 5, and 3 years old. Both of us work full-time. I work remotely from home, and my wife is a preschool teacher. A couple of years ago, my wife struggled with her self-esteem, possibly due to postpartum depression after our 3rd child. She had gained some weight and felt really uncomfortable with her body. I tried to support her, and I suggested we try different things like the gym, but she wasn't really interested. She is from Southeast Asia, and K-pop is popular there. She's a big fan, so I found a K-pop dance studio that had beginner classes. After some convincing, she agreed to try it out, and she ended up loving it. She's been going regularly for 2 years now, and she's almost at her pre-pregnancy weight again, and much happier. I'm honestly so proud of her for finding something that makes her feel good. But as her commitment to dance has grown, I've started to feel distant from her. She's made new friends at the dance classes, most of whom are single and without kids. What feels weird to me is that she hasn't told them she's married or that she has kids, even though when she talks about them to me, she describes them as close friends. For me, family is such an essential part of who I am. I couldn't consider anyone a close friend without knowing that I am married and have kids. I'm a little bit hurt by it, to be honest. I can understand that the dance classes are probably an escape from all the stress of life and having 3 young kids, but I still find it odd. In the last few months, she has increased the frequency of going to the classes. She used to go mostly on weekends, but now she goes multiple times a week. And each trip takes around 4 to 5 hours, including travel time. Sometimes she'll message me after the class to ask if it is okay if she sticks around for dinner with her friends. While I don't mind, I get that she would be hungry after dancing for 1.5 hours. But it's gotten to a point where it feels like she's spending more time out with her friends than she does at home with me and the kids. It also hurts because, from what I see in the photos and videos she shares, she seems so much more carefree, energetic, and playful with her friends than I've ever seen her be with me, including before we had kids or even before we got together. I'm generally the more playful one between us, making silly jokes, being energetic, and doing silly dances or movements to make the kids laugh. She rolls her eyes when I am being energetic. She's always been the more serious one. I can't think of a better word. But with her friends, she's so different. She laughs, jokes, and seems to enjoy herself so much. It makes me feel left out, and I can't help but wish she'd be that way with me too. I've even made joking comments about how she seems to have more fun without me, or that maybe she's embarrassed of me. She always denies it, but it's hard not to feel that way sometimes. Last month, her studio had a series of all-day filming sessions every Saturday for about a month. She'd be gone from morning until late at night. During this time, I made quite a commitment as well, taking care of the kids all day while she was gone. We both work, but I work longer hours than she does, so I get less time for myself anyway, making this a significant commitment for me in my opinion. Now, they're planning a viewing party for the edited videos in December, and she was really excited about it. I was also excited to see the video, as I genuinely enjoy watching her dance and seeing her improve. It gives me so much joy to see her reaction to her video. I thought I'd get to see it at home together, as they normally just send a link to the video, but then they changed it to a party since it's close to Christmas. I thought it would be a kind of members-only event, but I found out through the dance studio's Instagram that her friends will be bringing their partners. She didn't even ask if I wanted to come, and it made me feel pretty upset, like she doesn't want me there. When I asked about it, she said she assumed I wouldn't want to go. I just can't shake the feeling that she'd rather keep this part of her life separate from me. She did end up asking if I wanted to come, but it didn't feel genuine. More like she was asking because she had to, not because she actually wanted me there. Honestly, it feels like if I did go, it would make her feel awkward, like taking her dad to a party where she can't be herself. I know I can be more reserved and serious, especially around people I don't know well, and I'm worried that she's embarrassed of me. It's hard for me to tell if this is all in my head or if there's something real behind these feelings. For context, I'm introverted and I don't have many close friends. I also struggle with some insecurities about my appearance. My hair is thinning, and I guess I have more signs of getting older than she does. I don't feel particularly fashionable or stylish. Meanwhile, my wife is often mistaken for being much younger, and she looks great. It makes me worry that she's embarrassed of me, especially around her younger friends. I want her to be happy and enjoy herself, but I also want to feel valued and included. I don't want her to feel like I'm trying to control her or take away the things she loves, but I'm struggling with how distant we've become, and it's starting to affect me more and more. Have any of you been in a similar situation? Am I being a little bit crazy? I don't really know how to shake this feeling of jealousy or, I guess, longing for the playful and energetic version of my wife. To add, there is no cheating or anything like that. The classes she attends only have girls. Also, we have live location on at all times with Life 360. Now for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. To me, the problem is not that she seems a bit different around them. I think this is somewhat okay. I have groups of people that bring out different sides of me, like work friends versus college and high school friends, for instance. My husband is the same. The second he meets with his old college friends, they can't put two words together in a sentence without laughing their heads off. I don't understand, I swear. The problem is that she is hiding your and your children's existence from them. It's okay if you don't hang out with them, but it's not okay that she pretends you don't exist and that she is single. Another issue is the amount of time she is spending with them versus her family. I would go to that party, to be honest. Update me. Comment 2. Are you sure there isn't a guy there she might be dancing with? It's cool to have a hobby separate from family, but it's not cool to spend the majority of her time doing that hobby. You need to have some serious, in-depth conversations about this, and the need for her to cut back significantly and carry her weight around the household. If she isn't taking you seriously, just tell her you want to give her all the room she needs by divorcing. Sometimes it takes risking losing a relationship to save it. Now, for the update. A couple weeks after the viewing party, I found out my wife has been spending even more time with her dance friends. A friend of hers even messaged me about an upcoming dance competition. She mentioned how excited everyone was for it. Apparently, my wife was practicing every day. During a family dinner, my parents asked about the competition. My wife casually mentioned it, but I felt left out the whole time. She was talking excitedly about her dance routine, while I just sat there in silence. After dinner, I confronted her about why she hadn't shared any of this with me. She said she didn't want to overwhelm me with details. I just felt like her excitement was taking over our family plans, which included a weekend trip. I mentioned the trip during a casual conversation, but she seemed really uninterested. A week later, I decided to attend one of her dance classes unannounced to show my support. I walked in to see her laughing and practicing with her friends, and she completely ignored me. That's when I started to suspect she was prioritizing her dance friends over our family. I've noticed her phone buzzing with messages during dinner, but she just ignores them. I asked her if she wanted to talk about the messages, but she quickly changed the subject. On a family outing to a local fair, I caught a glimpse of her phone. I saw a message from a dance friend about a private party after the competition. I decided to check in with one of my kids to see how they felt about their mom's absences. My child said they missed their mom and wished she was home more often. The date night came, but she was really distracted, just scrolling through her phone. I brought up our family's needs, but she dismissed my concerns. Our conversation escalated, and she accused me of not supporting her passion. I planned a surprise family dinner to reconnect with the kids and set a positive tone. I decided to invite her to join, hoping it would create a family moment. She showed up late, saying she had just come from dance practice. The kids were visibly disappointed, and I noticed her indifference. I started keeping track of all the times she prioritized dancing over family commitments. I confronted her with the list, detailing all the missed family moments. That led to a bitter argument, with both of us feeling unheard. I made a plan to assert my role in the family, starting with a family outing without her. I took the kids to a trampoline park, and we had a blast. I even decided to throw a party for the kids' friends, emphasizing family togetherness. Inviting her felt necessary, but I secretly planned to keep her schedule in check. As the party approached, I learned she was making plans for another dance event. Thank you for reading. Am I the idiot for letting my ex-wife's drama ruin my new friendship? I had been in an unhappy relationship with my ex-partner for 10 years. We have an 8-year-old together, and I had vowed never to leave. She, who is 37 years old and female, had really bad postnatal depression, and having a child had forced her to confront a lot of things she had been running from for years. As a result, there has been zero intimacy for the last 6 years. I had just accepted my lot in life and was trying to be content with being a good dad and a supportive partner. About 3 months ago, she came to me and said she didn't think she was ever going to be able to be there for me in a meaningful way, and that we should separate and co-parent. I was honestly relieved. We are still good friends. We made some sound investments early on, so we will both walk away well off financially. We have 2 dogs, hers and mine, rather than shared family dogs. I kept it to myself for weeks. I have really great supportive friends around me, but I just couldn't tell them for some reason. I don't feel ashamed or guilty. I really don't know why I kept it to myself. About 3 weeks after we had agreed to separate, I finally said it out loud to an associate, who is 35 years old and female, at work, with whom I had had only a few brief interactions. She asked how my dogs were, and I replied that I only had one now. Then it all came out. Fast forward 3 months, and I am talking to this woman every day. We walk our dogs together usually once a week. She is one of the most incredible people I have ever met. We are into the same kind of weird music, we read the same kind of books, and we spend hours just talking about anything and everything. She has been quite unlucky in love and had a breakup not too long before mine. She said that she needed to be alone for a while to be able to be content with just being with herself, which is where I am at too. I was in no rush to jump into a new relationship, and the last thing I want to do is bring home a revolving carousel of partners into my child's life. But this woman is different from anyone I have ever met. Her perspectives and attitudes have brought me out of what has been quite truly a miserable few years. We have not been flirtatious or intimacy in pretty much any way, but the attraction between us is so palpable. We have spent hours talking about love as a concept and analyzing where we had gone wrong in previous relationships. We have danced around talking about how we feel about each other. Both of us are scared to make the first real move because this feels way too good to be true. But this really feels like true love, like fairy tale stuff. Disgusting, I know. I had no intentions of being here. I am fully aware that this is far too soon. I am usually very boring and sensible, and this is well out of character for me. My ex is still living in our house, but will be moving out early next year. We have not yet told our parents we have separated. I am fully aware that the timing is terrible, yet I am hopelessly head over heels for a woman I have only known properly for 3 months. What do I do? Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. 3 months isn't anything to scoff at, and it sounds like you have made a serious connection. I don't see any rush, though. It sounds like your interactions are bringing a lot of happiness to your life, so why change that? At some point, you'll probably need to make the next move, so maybe lightly nudging something in her direction could be the way to go. I guess the key is to be transparent and respectful. Comment 2. OP, I'm concerned you've been in such an unhealthy relationship for so long that the first normal relationship seems like a fairy tale. Not because it is special, but just relative to what you have had for the last decade. Now, for the update. A couple of weeks after the last post, my ex moved out and took the dogs. I was a little sad to see them go, but I knew I had to get used to living alone. I started spending even more time with the 35-year-old colleague. We were kinda inseparable. We were enjoying our daily walks and conversations just as much as the dogs were. One day, we agreed to go to a local concert together. We were both excited about the chance to hang out outside of our usual routine. At the concert, I introduced her to a few friends, and they all got along, laughing and dancing like idiots. After the concert, we ended up at a nearby diner, sharing late-night fries and talking about our dreams like we were in a cheesy coming-of-age movie. The next day, I got a text from my colleague mentioning a family holiday tradition of going to a cabin in the mountains. She invited me along next month. I was stoked. The day after that, I got a text from my ex asking to meet up to discuss our financial arrangements. I was like, great, just when I thought I could enjoy some peace and quiet. We met at our old favorite coffee shop, where the tension was super obvious. We discussed bills and shared custody of the dogs. Then, out of nowhere, my ex made a comment about how she was finally ready to move on and asked if I was seeing anyone. My heart dropped. I hesitated but decided to be truthful, mentioning the colleague without going into any detail. Her reaction was like a slap in the face. She said she thought I'd still be figuring things out after our long relationship. A week later, I got a message from the colleague saying she needed to talk. She suggested we meet at the diner. When we met, she seemed distant and revealed she had been talking to her ex. I was like, oh no, not this again. While we were chatting, I got a call from my ex, who said she needed help with something urgent. I left the diner abruptly, promising to reach out to the colleague later. When I arrived at my ex's place, she was in tears, claiming she felt alone and overwhelmed with the move. I mean, this is the same woman who wanted to separate, so I didn't really know what to do. We ended up reminiscing about our past, which blurred the lines of our separation. The next day, I texted the colleague to explain why I had to leave abruptly, but she didn't respond for hours. When she finally replied, she seemed annoyed and said she understood but felt I was still too tied to my past. We agreed to take a break from seeing each other while I figured things out. A few days later, I went to a family dinner for my sister's birthday. I was uncomfortably reminded of my ex. My family asked about the new woman, and I felt the pressure of their expectations. My brother joked about my dating life, and the family laughed, but I felt a sense of dread. After dinner, I stepped outside for fresh air and saw my ex sitting in her car, looking upset. We ended up talking, and she mentioned feeling like she was losing me to someone new. I tried to reassure her, but the conversation spiraled into a heated argument about our past. A few days later, I received a text from the colleague saying she was going on a trip with her ex for the weekend. Great, just what I needed, more drama. The weekend came, and I spent it alone. When the colleague returned, she didn't reach out. The last message I received from her was a short text saying she was confused and needed space. I'm pretty much in a mess right now, and I have no clue what to do next. Edit. After the events I shared, my ex moved out for good. We finalized our financial arrangements without any issues. The colleague reached out a few weeks later, and we talked things through. She clarified that her trip with her ex was just a friend thing. We agreed to take things slow, but still enjoy our time together. It's been going well, and we're both really happy. I'm in a much better place now, and I appreciate everyone's advice and support along the way. Am I the idiot for telling my husband to choose between his sister and our marriage? I'm feeling confused, and I know I did a few things wrong, like telling him to leave, but I'm struggling with the dynamic between my husband and his sister, who is 18 years old. She moved to the United States and stayed with us for 2 to 3 months before moving to campus. I wasn't told she'd be staying until a week before her arrival, but I adjusted, treated her kindly, and essentially became a parent during her stay. After she moved out, I expressed to my husband that I felt neglected. We'd had guests over often and hadn't had quality time together. We agreed to spend the weekend after she left together, but he broke that agreement by letting her stay with us again. Since then, she has repeatedly interrupted date nights, and we haven't really had intimacy due to her presence and related arguments. He insisted on bringing her to Thanksgiving with my family, even though I didn't want her there. He also suggested we all sleep on a single air mattress in one room, which I refused. My family had 2 rooms for each of us to stay in. She stayed in her own room, and we stayed in another room. During Thanksgiving, she acted like he was her boyfriend. We were walking into a store, and I held my husband's hand, and he held her hand, so we looked like a throuple. Recently, we planned a shopping spree for me, which she joined. We had a shopping spree for my husband a couple of months ago, and he said he would do one for me. She pulled my husband into another store for an hour, cutting my time short since we didn't drive. I was visibly irritated, but he walked ahead with her and dismissed my concerns, accusing me of being jealous and competing with her. When I told him I didn't want her around next year, he said he wouldn't come either. When I tried to explain how excluded I felt, he told me to find someone else to complain to and called me selfish. In frustration, I asked him to leave the next day, but he decided to leave that night. I apologized and told him I thought it was safer to leave in the morning. He was considering it, but he left that night, encouraged by his sister. We haven't spoken since. Additional context. His sister constantly inserts herself into our plans and undermines my decisions. She competes with me over knowledge of my husband, despite not growing up with him. He studied abroad when she was younger and would only see him during holidays or when she would come to the United States. She gives me dirty looks and excludes me by speaking another language I don't fully understand, even though they both grew up speaking English. Others have noticed the dynamic and commented that she acts like his girlfriend and that she doesn't know how to be alone. She is the only girl and the youngest. I don't believe there's anything inappropriate happening, but there are no boundaries, and it feels like my husband is okay with me being upset as long as his sister is happy. Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. He is probably too codependent to understand what's wrong. This will not stop. You and any children you have with him will always be secondary to his sister and any children she has. He's already shown you he doesn't prioritize you and has no interest in doing so. You may need to file for divorce. Make an ultimatum of counseling or divorce, and if he refuses the former, stick to the latter. There will be other men who don't have dysfunctional, codependent relationships with their youngest siblings. Seek counseling to help yourself avoid that kind. Comment 2. What a strange post. Honest question. Did they come from a place where incestuous relations aren't frowned upon? I think you did the right thing. I believe he'll come around and want to come back, and then you need to be firm on your boundary. Also, his responses to you were really rude. Maybe you should try couples counseling. Now, for the update, I'm super late on this update, but a lot has happened. So a week has passed since I asked my husband to leave. I still haven't heard from him, and honestly, my routine is all messed up. I mean, I get up every morning, make coffee, and just stand there. It's so quiet. I still see his sister's texts come through on his phone, but he's not responding to her either. It's like a weird reminder that we're not in sync anymore. I found this invitation in his jacket pocket for a Christmas party at his sister's friend's house. The invitation is addressed to both of us, but I wasn't told about it. Not even a, hey, we're invited to a party. So, that kind of raised my suspicion about their continued closeness. I mean, why are they still doing couple things? So I decided to crash the party to confront him about it. I know, not the best idea, but I had to know. I show up to the party and see him with his sister, laughing, sharing drinks, the whole deal. The atmosphere is all festive, filled with laughter and music, but I just feel invisible, like I don't belong there. It's super awkward. I approach them, and the sister immediately tries to pull him away, like I'm some kind of monster. He looks surprised to see me, but doesn't acknowledge me right away. He just stares at his sister, and I'm like, seriously? The sister smirks and suggests that I should lighten up, claiming it's just a party. I'm standing there like, really? You want me to lighten up? He defends his sister, saying it was just a misunderstanding. Really? A misunderstanding? I'm not that naive. He brushes it off again, claiming he didn't think it was a big deal. I'm just done at this point. I can see he's conflicted, but still chooses to defend his sister. So I tell him I need space and walk back inside the party. I needed a moment to breathe. Once inside, I find a friend from my past who shows interest in reconnecting. We share a few laughs, and he invites me to a New Year's party. Not gonna lie, it felt good to smile again. A few days later, my husband tries to reach out, but I choose not to respond. His sister texts me again, trying to provoke me, but I ignore it. I get a surprise call from my husband during the party. He asks where I am, but I lie and say I'm with friends. He's frantic, wanting to know if I'll come home. It's like he thinks he owns me. I calmly tell him I'm enjoying my night and hang up. The next day, I find out through social media that my husband and his sister were also at the same party. The kicker? They didn't even approach me. I can't even explain how that made me feel. Like I was some ghost haunting their party. This leads to a big confrontation with my husband. I tell him clearly that I need boundaries, and him and his sister need to stop acting like they're still close. He finally acknowledges my concerns and admits he may have taken me for granted. He's starting to see it. I'm not saying it's all fixed, but it's a start. I plan a weekend getaway with friends, and honestly, I'm excited for a fresh start. Edit: a lot has happened since the last update. My husband and I are working on our communication and spending some time apart to figure things out. We've set boundaries regarding his sister, and it's been less stressful. I'm not rushing to reconcile, but I appreciate the progress. If you like this video, you'll probably like these too. Also, while you're here, please consider subscribing. It's your support that keeps this channel alive and allows me to make better and longer videos. Have a great day.